Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 to 8, our conversation with the Group CEO of Standard Group PLC continues. Marion Mwangi is here. We are talking about navigating a transition as a woman leader. Somebody's asking in the comments, guys, where is the company transitioning to?
I think it's just the taking on the industry 4.0 and coming from the way the traditional reporting into a digital space and into where technology is taking us, and recovering the company from the difficulty it has had financially. I think that can be called out. So it is the turnaround. The transition is a turnaround, and turning around is not something you can do at once. Otherwise, you break your back. But turning around is done through a process. As I said earlier, consensus and accepting where the company is. Just like all of us knowing where is the company and what are the metrics that we know right now. Here they are, and here are the countermeasures for each of them. Because when you want to carry everybody, you need to just say, this is the situation, and these are the KPIs that we actually as a managed team have come up with, and then how do you align everybody or deploy all those goals to the last person in the organization? So the transition is the turnaround and the change, and turnarounds are not only for businesses that are struggling. They're also for businesses that are successful, because some parts of businesses may need turnarounds. And even in your personal life, sometimes you need to just do a transition or a turnaround into a way of thinking or a way of living or a way of doing something that you like to do.
It's like the motor industry. For the longest time, we know that vehicles need to use either diesel or petrol. And the same companies that made these vehicles are now manufacturing electric cars. So it's a turnaround.
Absolutely.
To meet the needs of the time, but they still manufacture cars. It's just that now the engine is different.
Exactly. Yes. Siti, you've actually said something quite important, because one of the women I've read about now is the founder of General Motors, or the CEO of General Motors, Mary. And she's driving that electric car process with hesitation from her own company, but with acceptance by users, and with a team, and with determination, and that's where you want to get to when you're doing a turnaround. Just be determined and accept where you are, and stay in that determination until you find new evidence to change it.
And also understanding where change is taking you. A story, people never tire of telling the story of Kodak.
Right.
One of the biggest, most profitable companies in the world. And when the digital age was upon us, somewhere along the line, they didn't quite get it. And that was it.
Right.
They were left in the dust. And they've stayed in the dust. I mean, I'm sure they've tried to pick up, but the others took off and continued taking off at such a trajectory that catching up has been difficult. And yet, they were the leader of the pack at a certain point in time. And I think our industry is not any different.
Not at all. If you read about Mary Barra's story and why she decided to go to go with the industry, is exactly that, not to have a Kodak moment.
Literally.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to ask Marian. When one talks about change, one is talking about processes. When one talks about empathy, one is talking about people. Now let's talk about you, because you're also a person. These processes that you've undertaken to be part and parcel of, how exactly have they affected you as a person? And how has the effect shaped your mind into seeking the solutions that you've spoken of?
I think, let me start by saying there's a process that I started 10 years ago called Daily Standard Work. Daily Standard Work, as we call it, DSW, or Leader Standard Work. What you do when you wake up to the time that you sleep is kind of standardized. There's a way that you do your things. Sit in the morning. I don't know what side of the bed you wake up, but you do. There are routines that you have that have become natural to you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, in that daily standard work or leader standard work, when you join a new company, you get an interruption in your day work. In the way that you interact with your current work. So the way it has affected me is just changing the stakeholder matrix that I have and bringing more people into the conversation. So we have an ExCo team here. We also have the levels of people that report to those people and the ones that report to those people. And those have been in one room together, discussing things that you may call basic, like what is our SWOT analysis, what's happening to us as an industry. And I've had snippets of brilliance from people across the organization. So the way it has affected me is just more learning, exciting learning, and more and a different way of crafting goals, and just disrupting that mindset that you can apply the same solution to every company, but listening to people and listening to the way they do their work and applying that to your work, even adopting whole parts of those has been what's different about my working culture right now. And the power of listening, and the power of knowing people have been here 30 years actually. 30 years. The average age in the middle management is 20 to 17 years. And that's a lot of knowledge that has changed the way I perceive the difficulty of transitioning to digital media and to transitioning to a successful, well-oiled machine or well-oiled company. So that is the effect it has had on me. But I've stabilized the day-to-day work by higher delegation and empowering of people, and I know that I have a lot of pressure in what I will bring. There's a lot of pressure, and taking that role of being a role model, or the way that I act, or the way that I interact with data, and the way that I receive month-end results, and what I say to the commercial team is going to be replicated. So just being brave and myself is something that I now think about. It's something that I now actually think about.
Yeah. So transition denotes that you're coming from a place that you were doing all right and want to get better, or from a place where things were terrible, and again trying to do better. If you take the latter, transition then would mean that you don't want to go back to that place that needed you to transition in the first place. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
That also means that there needs to be an establishment of what the problem was, so that you don't go back there.
Absolutely.
Would you say that has been established? What the issue was? Because now we're not talking about the media space, because that's a whole other kettle of fish on its own.
Yeah.
But here, as an organization, has that been established so that we are all on the same place where we say, well, then never again shall we go back there? Has that been established in terms of what the problem was?
I would say that it is forming, and it's forming nicely, because it's forming with a longer term view. So we're forming that ideation from a day-to-day survival to what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Or 1,000 days, as Eric is going to highlight. So it is forming, and it's forming nicely, and it's forming at the correct level. So establishing it is going to happen through the various communication platforms that we have, starting today with a town hall, and doing that consistently. We are beginning to do a bulletin just to update employees on what's going on, because communication flow is one of the challenges that I've found in the last 90 or so days. So just increasing information flow, truth-telling, storytelling that gives hope to those that are here and those that are not no longer with us, because news do spread around. We're in a media industry, so news leave the room. So it has formed, and it is forming nicely, and it's forming for the long term. And for as long as I'm determined to make this happen, we'll come from formation to it reflecting outside, to it reflecting in your own work that something changed. And if a lot of people say something has changed, then we'll start succeeding.
Yeah.
In the correct way. So it's forming, and I'm determined to make it stick, and together with the team, because I cannot do it alone to make that stick.
One of the things that you've mentioned a number of times this morning, and even the last time you were here, was managing as a woman and what that brings to the table. And you've mentioned again here and said, women have a way of understanding and internalizing things because of your nurture. You're brought up to nurture. You know how these things work. Now you are the first woman CEO that this 100 plus organization has actually had, right? And not many of you CEOs in the media industry are women. You're just one of very few. And there have been founders, yes. Rose Kimoda, for example, and starting the media house, Linda Holt, and starting a media house. I've worked for these women CEOs, and I've seen what it means. So what is it about a woman CEO then? What is it about a woman being at the helm of an organization at a point of transition? What sets you apart?
I think the simple answer is a sixth sense, that when you speak to somebody on a one-to-one basis or to a group of people, you can sense the things that are said and the things that are not said, and then you can do an experiential. I'm actually happy to sit to work in any part of the organization and get the feeling of what is said, what is not said, and what is a longer term solution towards a systemic issue that keeps coming up. So I think that sets us apart. And also that we see people differently, we don't cut and go or box a problem and leave it. We just thread things, and it's problematic sometimes to put a thread through every issue. But when you meet a block, when you block out, I'm going to solve this issue. I think as a female leader, you get a sixth sense, and you get you consult a lot more. I mean, it's so funny how when you see how difficult it is for a man. Eric, I'm sure even you asking for directions must be, until you get lost 50 times.
And even when they are lost,
even when you're lost, you still say, "I'm gonna find a way." So we have no shame or no difficulty in asking for help. And then keep sense checking your decisions, not because as a leader you cannot meet everybody's needs. At the end of the day, you have to still make a decision, but that decision has been really pressed down, shaken down, put together, and once then a decision is made as a woman, you just proceed with determination. So that's probably what sets us apart. I've read many books even about Indra Nooyi, the CEO of Pepsi, and even gone back to read about Oprah and how she created a daytime show that was really, really amazing. And what did she feel? In the beginning was doubt, and then after that, like, I can do this. And so because I've been here long enough, that sixth sense exists, and it to show up.
Yeah.
It show up in cash.
Totally.
I hope.
Do you have your radar up? Like, do you have your radar up and wondering whether somebody is questioning you, is giving you advice, is doing that from a point of misogyny?
I do, and the sixth sense also helps. There's misleading, there's leading, and there's advice. I said to the team, I think it was the terror team the other day, there's good people, bad people, and evil people, and just discerning who those are is something that you can call as giftedness. Do if you've got it. I mean, the thing about just run away or just doubt this thing and go away is real.
Absolutely.
And that's the time you say, okay, let me take some time off. I've had the opportunity to just take long walks and just think through, what did I just hear? What am I feeling? And so when we come up with the solutions or what we're going to do about the pressing issues, it's come from a thoughtfulness and depth, and at some point, doubt, personal doubt, on is it really possible to run the business with the state that it is, without
Disruption.
for example, disruption, or government paying us all the money they owe us, or somebody or Father Christmas coming up and just giving us loads and loads of
Doing his thing.
dollars, doing his thing.
Yeah.
When by the time the year ends.
People have asked, Marion.
That's a good question. I like it.
People have asked whether this media industry in Kenya, the legacy media, the traditional media, is going to survive. Now, you are a business leader, but you've not played in this space before. So coming in as an outsider and now getting in, have we missed the boat? Can this media industry survive the way it is?
Not the way it is, but we've got snippets of glory. We've got gold sitting among us. It won't survive the way it has been, and a lot will change. Most of it painless, I hope. But the size and the way that we play, the way that we respond to audience and creating audiences and creating content, and speed and relevance, it's going to change. That as an outsider, as a businesswoman, it has to change, and I think every business has to.
Change is rarely painless.
Yeah, there's something
Very, very rarely. And also legacy media, not on this continent, not in this country, around the world, has had to go through seismic shifts. Those that haven't been willing to change have died. It's that simple.
Right.
It's a story of the dinosaur all over again. If you don't metamorphosize and you don't keep in tandem with the rhythm of time and change, then it doesn't. If it leaves you behind, you're fortunate. In other instances, it extinguishes you completely. You are done for. You're gone.
Yeah. And Sati, I'd like you to consider these two situations. If somebody tells you you're going to die in 2 days, your death versus the person who just gets crushed out and dies are different. One is very painful, and the other is, I acknowledge that and you get prepared. So, and I say painless in that sense, but there's no painless change per se, but there's knowing this is the change we are going to. But you don't have to die. You can change.
I think you're spot on. That is precisely what I meant to put across, that when you acknowledge the truthfulness of your situation, you can then prepare realistically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Marion, far be it from me not to ask the communication question, because it's something that you've mentioned in terms of keeping the flow of information and communication. I mean, we are in a media house. Whether it is external factors or whether it is internal for people who work here or did work here. And some of the things that you speak about that are important to communicate, it's not just from you. People
Absolutely.
on your team, people who are under you in terms of the hierarchy. But that communication at those levels then becomes extremely important. How do you guarantee that critical, vital information that needs to be regular is actually communicated and is just not waiting for the CEO's town hall, for example, and that other people who need to communicate critical issues are doing so in truth?
Oh yeah. what a question to do, because communication is in two types. Grievance sorting is you sort out your grievances with your supervisor, who then goes to your supervisor. That's a pyramid upwards. But in terms of vision and a compelling idea, it needs to flow down in the same way, because you don't want a broken telephone, especially of an important message. So, and what we'd have to do in the beginning is just to attend all of the communications, but not communicate yourself. So delegate even the communication after you've communicated. So I've got 5 goals. For my 5 goals, there's strategies. Those strategies have to be cascaded to the next level, and they have to set their goals and strategies, and then they have to cascade. So the cascade method that we started in the beginning of September, if that breaks down, it means that we'll do it again. And I believe in the plan, do, check, act cycle, which we call PDCA. So I'll do that around the organization until it happens.
Right. Okay.
My determination is such that I'm going to attend the drivers' meeting at night before they leave, just to make sure that the message that we are trying to get to the last person gets in the tone and in the spirit, without interpretation. Without, sort of saying, you must say this, because every leader has their own style of communication, but that the context and the feeling of it gets translated. And that's why I appreciate this moment to come to the Situation Room to show the context and the determination that we have not to have a painless death.
Marion, thank you very much for joining us this
Yes,
morning. So you're going to be addressing the staff town hall shortly.
Yes.
Some people, like in a sonnet, feel because they've been part of the Situation Room for so many years, they're part of staff. So they've had their staff address. Now it's for the internal staff. Marion Mwangi is the Group CEO at Standard Group PLC. She's been our guest talking about navigating the transition that Standard Group and media in general needs to undergo. But from her perspective and the lens of a woman and the lessons that she's picked along the way from other inspirational leaders. It's 8 a.m., time for the news.